Welcome both of you for the first time to OnlyPod, Skyler and Jacob.
Yeah,
What's up, everybody?
Jacob, you're a fellow Super Vampire Weekend fan. I believe you've now been to 20 shows.
My 20th show is going to be Red Rocks in a couple weeks.
19. Okay.
So close.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
Could not happen sooner.
It really can't.
And Skyler, I believe these were your first two shows.
They were, yeah. Amazingly, because I've been such a fan of Vampire Weekend for such a long time. Like integral to my entire adolescence, musically. So yeah, a huge influence. Ezra has been a huge influence on me for a long, long time. So yeah, it was pretty. It was surreal, really, to finally see a show.
Influence on you how?
Well, just integral in the way that any very prominent body of music is in one's life. It just was, colors, music just kind of colors one's life. So Vampire Weekend, the first three albums and actually, yeah, particularly Modern Vampires was just such a staple of my college years. So it's just really a part of me in that way. And then did I say influential?
Yeah.
Ezra, I just am there's something about him that I find I just want whatever he went on to rub off on me, and I've always been just inspired by how he kind of moves through life and how he he's really just his. I remember early in my 20s being really into his Twitter work. His early Twitter stuff was so good. He was just super funny. He's super funny dude, and just obviously just such a cool dude. So I've just been, I think, influenced by him in that way, just inspiring guy. So yeah, it was cool to see him do his thing for sure.
Jacob, how did you get into Vampire Weekend?
Vampire Weekend was one of the first bands I got into in high school as well. I mean, Modern Vampires was probably my favorite album in high school, and it led me down the path to finding Contra and the first album as well. I was lucky enough to see them back in that era, and then just over the years after that hiatus, I just became a bigger and bigger fan. And then now, I mean, I would consider myself a very, very massive fan and very committed to following them around full time, and absolutely love everything about their shows and what they've become and the way they've grown as a band. It's really cool to see yourself grow up with a band and, see yourself grow with them and them grow as well. And, not a lot of bands from my era really, I feel like, have done that. So it's been really cool to, stick yourself to a band that actually does grow and develop over time. And, you feel like you're growing with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These shows, what did you guys think? What was you have a top moment from Saturday maybe?
Boy, a top moment from Saturday for sure. I mean, my favorite moment in the show just in general is when they drop the Curtain and Ice Cream piano, because the crowd is always going so crazy. Everyone, seems to really love that song live, and it's definitely become my favorite part of the show just because that's when the energy, I feel like, really cranks up, especially after playing three solid retro songs to get everyone going, and then you drop in something fun and new. I just always love that moment in the show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I was working, so I didn't get to enjoy the show as much as I do remember really being blown away by Hope. I got to kind of step aside for Hope at the end and just take it in, and that's definitely my favorite cut off the new record, and it's just incredible. It was so cool to see. I love how they kind of wrap the show with that song and send people off the stage one by one. It was big. I loved that. The whole show though was just beautiful. But yeah, I was working, so I just didn't get to take everything in, unfortunately. I'm hoping there's some tapes. I'm curious to talk to you guys about what the tape scene is like. Are people recording shows? Are there typically audience recordings for every show, or how does that work?
There's a small group of people who I don't know if it's people tape the shows, but it's primarily somebody films it on their phone, posts it on YouTube. In the past, I've recorded them. I chose not to record these two because I really wanted to be in the moment.
Yeah.
I do have tapes from 3 or 4 shows that I'll post soon. But again, I think it was recorded with a GoPro, so it's not the highest quality, but it's something. They got like the chalk dust torture.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Long Cape Cod with Mike Gordon. So those are pretty sick.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah. So Jacob, you've introduced yourself as a super fan. I guess Skyler, let's get a proper introduction, little like CV rundown. Why you were at the show, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I just I was planning on attending. To back up a little bit, I was really eager to be at some of the Mike Gordon shows, and I had planned to be at the Greek UC Berkeley shows, but just scheduling conflicts kind of came up, and I needed to be. I just kind of made an adult decision to kind of get moving on some of these video projects that I have lingering and that are really kind of urgent to get started with. So I just made the decision to miss those shows, which was hard because I'm a big Fish guy, and I come to the vampire world these days from more of like a jam band perspective. So I was super bummed to miss those, but I was here in Montana and I just figured I'd send it out I'm in Bozeman, which is a few hours away from Missoula, but figured I'd send it out to Missoula so I could see these shows. And it was funny. I was going to go, and I just thought of, it just occurred to me kind of like afterthought of like, why don't I just, it'd be cool to shoot video for these. Maybe just hit up, I don't know. I can't even say I know CT. We met. We just met. We had like a maybe 10-minute conversation a couple years ago in Bolinas after a Taper's Choice show. So I just sent him a quick message and was like, hey man, I do this. I didn't even talk to him when we met about like what I do or photo video work or anything. So I didn't have any expectation that he'd remember me. And I don't think he did even, but I just was like, hey, I do photo video work. I shoot film, and it's kind of unique, and I'd love to shoot some video for these shows. And I have like a little bit of a portfolio in the live music space. I shot a film last year during the Dead and Company run at Oracle in San Francisco. I was able to shoot some 16 millimeter film inside. And so I have like a film that I made from that. He got back to me. I was like, it was a total Hail Mary, just like a long shot. I was just like, why not? Fuck it. And he responded, and he gave me, maybe it's like his marketing director, Nicole. I'm not sure what exact role she fills, but yeah, reached out to him, reached out to her, and really easily just kind of was like in there. So it was a great way to have a lot of fun. I love running around a show, shooting, like enjoy, like seeing people, trying to capture people really in, having a great time, enjoying a show and being in the moment, and just trying to capture the energy of a live music experience is really fun for me. So it was a great way to do that and to sort of see the shows. I got to enjoy the shows a little bit, and also I'll take any excuse I can get to shoot film and to do it on somebody else's dollar is something I'm always down for. I just love it. Yeah, that's kind of what brought me to the shows.
Well, I, for one, genuinely appreciate that in your coverage you were spending a lot of time getting the fans and covering the diehard fans who were there a lot.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Like, it's my third show this year. I mean, definitely at the Eclipse show, none of the photographers were like interested in what was going on with us. They were all interested in Ezra and the boys only.
Yeah.
I definitely appreciate that perspective as well, because I think, you're talking about, Fish and Dead and Co. And I think so much of what makes those bands is the fans. And I think that to a constantly increasing extent, the same is true of Vampire for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exciting to see. To see the crossovers, it really fires me up to see this kind of these worlds colliding in the ways that they are, and the sort of increasing adjacency that is occurring in the vampire space with all the bootleg merch and the fan made art. And dude, these CDs you gave me are just so cool. I broke into one of them and I'm just looking through it. All of it's just so fucking cool, man. So
thank you.
It's just so cool, the level of like effort and care that went into it. And that's something that I just am so passionate about myself in the Grateful Dead Fish world. And so to see it happening with this band that I before I found that stuff, the Grateful Dead and Fish, I was into Vampire Weekend. So it's this interesting kind of for me personally, and I'm sure this is the case for maybe probably a lot of others, folks who are kind of getting into the Dead later in life and didn't grow up on it, but grew up kind of on indie rock. It's for me, it's actually like it goes beyond being like exciting to like actually being validating for me to see like somebody like Ezra being stoked on Fish, which is a band that is so like chastised in society and so, you know, like dismissed. And, you know, there's so many people that there's a whole, you know, it's just so like people really trash Fish. And to have somebody like Ezra to point to be like, well, he fucking likes it. So, and look at the music they make. Look at the music these guys make, and look at what an incredible artist he is. If he sees something in it, it's just validating for me to see these worlds collide in the way they do, you know?
So, Jacob, what did that progression look like for you as far as getting into, you know, kind of what order you got into these bands? Because I know your request on Sunday, you wanted a Fish song. So, like, what you said you liked Vampire in high school. What's been your progression with like Vampire, Fish, the Dead, the jam band scene in relation to like your life?
I mean, it's so funny. My progression is like pretty identical to Skyler's, honestly. So like I grew up absolutely a massive indie rock fan, and you know, my family is more of like a classic rock family, I would say, like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd more so than, you know, jam bands like Grateful Dead and Fish. And then when I graduated high school, I was lucky enough to go to Bonnaroo for the first time out near where you guys live. And I got to see Dead and Company that summer, and it just kind of blew up my love for the entire jam scene. And then that's when I really got into Time Crisis as well. So they were, you know, always talking about Grateful Dead and Jerry and everything. So that was always just a great stepping stone for me to learn about that. And then as Father of the Bride got closer, Ezra kept talking about his influences for it and how it was going to be more like Fish and how it was going to be more like Grateful Dead. And so that just like furthered my love for it at that point. And by that point, I started following around Dead and Company the way I do Vampire Weekend. And, you know, when Vampire Weekend was on hiatus during COVID and post Father of the Bride, that was the band I followed around. And it is super validating, like Skyler said, to, you know, have people walk around your entire life and say, oh, you know, the Grateful Dead sucks. Oh, Fish sucks. Jerry sucks. Like all this stuff, just because like they haven't, you know, put the time into the music, or they haven't, you know, taken a chance to care about it really. You know, to turn around and see like your favorite musician be like, oh yeah, this is my inspiration for this album. This is, you know, who inspires me. This is like what I've been digging recently. Like it, you know, makes you feel a lot better about what you're listening to, and, you know, makes you feel like, you know, it matters, and that like you can help implement parts of that culture onto the Vampire Weekend culture. You know, it's like, I would have never even considered doing bootlegs like I'm doing now if it weren't for, you know, like Ezra talking about stuff like Shakedown Street on Time Crisis and talking about his experiences going to Dead shows and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't have been as comfortable being like, oh yeah, doing that stuff if it wasn't for him, really.
That's awesome. Love to hear that, Jacob. That's really cool.
Question for both of you. Obviously, they're very different. They're very different things. But Skyler, I think you said you've been to 45 Fish shows. Jacob, I don't know how many.
No, not that many. It's in the 30s, I think.
All right.
I might have embellished and said. I tend to embellish for my own kind of like humor, but yeah, no.
Fair enough.
They're in the 30s. I haven't counted recently, but yeah, in the 30s.
Yeah, Jacob, you've been to a bunch of Sphere shows. I don't know how many total Dead & Co shows or Fish shows you've been to, but how do you feel that Vampire stacks up in their live show?
I mean, I honestly think that it, you know, it reminds me of the way people talk about seeing Jerry back in the day, or Fish 1.0 or early Fish, because it's like they're so experimental. They're trying so many different things every night. And granted, they're not doing full set list changeovers every night, but, you know, the way the songs are ordered changes very much constantly, and the set list changes constantly. And it's given me opportunities to see so many songs in their catalog that when I first, started going to shows like I do in 2018, it, I never even considered I'd be able to see, certain songs like Ottoman Again or Giant or any of these, real deep cut B-sides from Vampire Weekend. But because of the way they play now, it gives you the opportunity to see all these wonderful songs, and it gives, fans who, maybe aren't as hardcore as us an opportunity to discover B-sides and songs that they maybe had never even listened to beforehand, which, I think it's what makes them the best live band today, honestly.
That's a big statement coming from someone that's been to Sphere shows with Dead & Co. So
love it.
Yeah.
I love the excitement.
So did you go to any of the Fish shows at the Sphere, Jacob?
I had tickets. I just was unable to go. I've seen Fish once. I mean, they just do not come to my part of the West Coast very much, so it makes it very difficult to see them. Me and a few of my friends have definitely talked about doing like a Fish tour one summer, but they're an East Coast band like Goose, which just makes it so much harder to see them than, most bands like Dead & Company who operate out here on the West Coast full time.
Where do you live, Jacob?
I live in Phoenix, a city that no jam band likes.
No country for Jam Flow Man.
No country for Jam Flow Man out here. One Vampire Weekend show in 12 years. Dead & Company came here, I think, 3 times total when they were touring. Fish has come here once in 25 years, which is crazy to say.
Well, they were there in 21, though, yeah?
Yeah, but before that, it was like 94 was the last time they were there.
Yeah, it's tough. That's tough.
Brutal.
Yeah.
12 years, it doesn't look that bad then.
Yeah.
It doesn't, comparatively, no.
Are there any live or any Vampire Weekend songs you guys still want to hear live?
I've been hunting Jonathan Lowe since I started seeing shows again. I joke with people and say I would love to see Arrows in Houston, Dubai also, just because those are the only other songs that I've never seen them play, but I also don't expect them ever.
I mean, no joke, those would be sick.
Yeah.
How come you didn't make it to the Eclipse show?
I had a work commitment come up that day. Same thing. I had a ticket for the show. I just couldn't make it out there justifiably.
Could have knocked out Jonathan Lowe.
Yeah.
I could have. Yeah, I'm hoping for MSG on that.
I think there's a good chance.
Strong chance.
Yeah.
I think Hannah Hunt for me. They didn't play Hannah Hunt, right?
They did on Saturday.
Yeah,
They
Saturday.
did. Oh, jeez. Shows how.
No
I was
worries.
dialed. I was really zoned in on the video on Saturday.
No worries.
Dang. Didn't even process Hannah Hunt.
Yeah. That one is that. I think that was my second time seeing Hannah Hunt live.
Yeah.
That song is, I mean, it hits you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of, personally, talking about it on the drive back, we both think Ezra's vocals right now are the best they've ever been. Do you guys have any words on that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, I definitely have gotten, reviews from friends who I've taken to shows before who have said he's been pitchy before, and I can sometimes agree with that. And this tour, I mean, I think he's been absolutely on point, especially compared to the early days when he was really all over the place. Now I think he's I think he's one of the best frontmen in music right now. He actually understands how to control a stage and a crowd now. I think he's progressed so well as, a singer and a frontman.
Yeah. His presence on stage is totally different this tour than I feel it's ever been. Like, he acts like he's conducting a show.
It definitely does feel that way.
Yeah. No, that was something that another thing that we kind of talked about on the drive back, because one of the other things that we listened to a lot of live Vampire. We listened to a lot of Billy. Thank you, Skyler, for convincing me to get a Nugs trial. I will be renewing. And we also listened to LCD Sound System's Madison Square Garden final show that wasn't the final show. I don't know if
still
either,
one of the greatest live albums.
Okay,
ever,
yeah, that is my favorite live album. Talking about that in kind of relation to Ezra's role in the band, because James Murphy is kind of known for not having the best voice, and he has referred to the live act as an LCD Sound System cover band. And we talked about a lot of people don't think that Ezra has the chops to solo, but he has more than enough talent to bring all of these insanely talented people into the live band. So like with that role as like kind of a conductor of the show, like how do you guys want to see him take that further? Like what pieces do you want to see him, you know, kind of add to the show?
I mean, as Paramore's tour ends, I really hope that they consider bringing Brian back again. He's easily my favorite member of the band. The energy he brought, just everything he brought to the band, and then his soloing ability. I mean, he's right up there with John Mayer, in my opinion, in terms of the way he can solo songs and the way he can improvise and create something out of nothing. I mean, he was the MVP on the Father of the Bride tour, no questions asked.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, I would do, if I was Ezra, I'd be doing anything possible to get him back. And then, I mean, I would say if the only thing I would have them change is just continue to, you know, stick to their guns harder on these set list changes, you know, don't be afraid to take Prep School Gangsters off the list for a night, you know, maybe, you know, add the Surfer in a couple more times on this second half, add a couple more deep cuts in. And, you know, like this will be one of the most fulfilling set list tours that I think that we could have asked for, really.
Hard agree.
Yeah, agree completely. I didn't know that Brian had obligations in another band.
Yeah, he's the studio bass player for Paramore, and then he is their rhythm guitar player now. Which, you know,
Rhythm, yeah. Come
rhythm,
on.
yes.
You can get somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the thing is that he's such homies with the Paramore guys that it makes it really hard to see him coming back in certain ways. But also, you know, you just hope that they're going to go on hiatus after this Taylor Swift thing is over.
Hashtag bring back Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be signs for that. We need Brian.
Bring back Brian shirt.
We'll go to Paramore shows.
Free
Free Brian.
Free Brian.
Free Brian. That's great. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
So yeah, Skyler, what about you? Talking about like what other pieces you want to see them add to the live show?
Oh yeah, I mean, just, you know, improvisation. I'd like to see more like kind of improvised segues and yeah, just a little bit more kind of fast and loose. Obviously, yeah, there's a lot of variation show to show, and I love how there's like different arrangement songs. That's pretty incredible to see. That's a big page out of like the Fish book or out of the Grateful Dead book, like a few different songs where there's just like different arrangements, ways it could be played, which I love. But yeah, just to see like a full, like, I'd like to see an order of magnitude increase on the fast and loose kind of improv, and for there to be solos and for there to be more jamming and stuff would be, for me, would be like, you know, scratch the itch for me. But I know that that's not. I have to be, of course, mindful of the fact that that's really not what like the general like fan base and audience is really looking for. So that'd just be a, you know, kind of a selfish thing for me. I don't know that that's really gonna do much for many others, but yeah.
I hear you, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the big wish is like, stop appealing to the mass audience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
just lean into what it seems like. It seems like Ezra is super fired up. And of course, CT has always been so fired up on jam band music. I hate that term. I don't like saying that. On just improvised experimental rock. And it'd be sick to see them lean into that. I mean, CT's leaning into it with Taper's Choice, which is really cool. But yeah, just to see some of that. Maybe there's a way to like structure the show where like bring in like a two set formula would be cool.
Okay, we played the hits. The casuals can leave now.
Yeah.
Type thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so like the first sets is traditional vampire, and then the second set's for the heads, dude.
They do kind of already have that divide in a way, I think, with the cover section.
Yeah.
I guess the cover section might have more. It's impossible for me to imagine how a casual fan views a Vampire Weekend concert.
Yeah.
And then to try to imagine them watching the cover section, I don't know. To me,
I think that's
Nirvana,
the
but
general audience's favorite part, like, because it's what everyone knows. I mean, in Phoenix, that's where the biggest reactions happened because they were playing like the Strokes and all these really popular bands and Tracy Chapman and all this stuff. And like that stuff gets the normies reaction, like at the end of the day, is like the stuff they know, or it's like, you know, the parents who brought their kids, it's like they want to hear this. They want to hear songs they know at the end of the day. Like, they don't care how they're presented to them. They just want to hear them at the end of the day.
Well, I think also, Skyler, what you were saying about, like, that might not be something that the general audience is, like, into. I think that the Father of the Bride tour, and specifically, like, a lot of the improvisation stuff they did there, if nothing else, proves that it's something that the audience is interested in. Because, I mean, I feel like, I don't know how much of it was down to just, like, oh, they released their first album in 6 years, or, 6 years, or if it was like the merch or just the aesthetic of it. But I just felt like the enthusiasm was so there for that album.
There's a lot of Jam Curious fans. Like,
Jam Curious.
A lot of Jam Curious fans.
Yeah. So it might not be something that they're interested in at the get-go, but I definitely think it's something that they're open to, because, I mean, everybody loved the Father of the Bride tour. So
I would also say, they're not listening, but to Vampire Weekend, the fans you'd lose and the fans you'd gain if you, instead of playing Holiday every night, you played like a 16-minute Rich Man.
Yeah.
Those are better fans.
Yeah.
Those are the fans you want coming.
Exactly.
Those are the fans that are going to keep coming again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Forever. That's one thing that's so it's really fascinating to look at the fan base with Fish and to see how just completely outside and beyond the pale they are in comparison with like literally any other major touring act, where like just the dedication on the fan base is so wild. Just to have people that are going to show up, like if they announce 25 shows at, like, forget Madison Square Garden, you could say like at some like weird shed in like rural Maine,
people are there.
50,000 people would show up to every single show, like literally, dude. It's incredible, and that just speaks to the more unpredictable a show can be, the less you know about what might happen, the less you can guess about what might be played, how it might be played, and what might go down. It's just the more exciting a show can be, the more dedicated and engaged and committed the fan base will get, and the more like the scene will flourish around the band, which is what's so cool, like to see it at those kinds of shows where like just what's the energy happening outside is so cool, and all the art and creativity happening around it is really amazing to be a part of and to behold.
Absolutely.
And I'll say on that, sort of to that point, my favorite moment Saturday night was they're playing Walcott. I've been to many Vampire shows. I know Walcott, that's the end of the show. But then Walcott ends, and then Will's still playing. And then we go into a special version of Flower Moon. That totally blew my mind. I was not expecting it. It was beautiful.
That was actually, I forgot about that. That blew my mind too. That was the biggest surprise of Saturday night for sure.
Yeah.
And like we're the only people that have gotten that so far. Yeah. Which that was, I guess that's something else we can talk about, is we got 4 version debuts?
Yeah.
Flower Moon, Bambina, and Pravda. Horchata's not technically officially a different version, but it is different.
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they played that in Berkeley the weekend before too, in the same way.
Okay, so we got 3. That's solid.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize the extent to which they are kind of rolling out these new arrangements. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I will say I'm not sure what they're going to do with the daytime arrangements, because there's only one matinee show on this second leg. So I hope they find a way to incorporate these versions into the set list still in a way. I'm just not sure how they're going to do that.
Well, we asked Holly this last time. Madison Square Garden's no repeats. If they played Mary Boone and then Mary Boone daytime on the second day, does that count as a repeat?
I would count it as a repeat.
Everybody's counting it as a
consensus.
Repeat. Yeah. I'm going to go against the grain. I don't think it's a repeat.
I don't know. I think it's a repeat.
I don't think it's a repeat because I want to get it.
Yeah, you want
It's
both.
like when Goose does the so ready, slow ready thing at certain venues. Like it's the same song, but one's a slow version, one's a fast version. It's like, guys, that's a repeat. Like,
so regular Bambina, grunge Bina, that's a repeat.
yeah, that's a repeat.
All right,
Absolutely.
I think we can say the ruling is in. It's a repeat.
Yeah,
Damn.
I'd probably.
Did you
Wait,
guys?
sorry. Wait, have they announced that that it's no repeats at MSG? Is that
Yeah.
something?
It is no repeats. Yeah.
Except A-Punk.
Oh,
Except
Cool.
A-Punk, yes.
how did that get announced? Who said that?
It was just like on a billboard at Madison Square Garden, and then like an Instagram ad. Like they didn't.
But this was
make it real public.
first conceived actually on Time Crisis, the episode before the episode where they talked about Ezra's 40th birthday eclipse show. And they were talking about the Baker's Dozen, and they were like, well, we can do like a 2-night run at MSG where we have no repeats. Halloween Twix was what they called it, because it was supposed to be like October. So this is another sort of TC prediction that's come true. But that they're taking the inspiration from Fish. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Hopefully Trey will come out.
That would be nuts. That would be nuts.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I really hope that happens someday. I think it will. It probably seems like the everything's in place for that to occur with the mic.
I'm waiting for John Mayer to become a touring member of Vampire Weekend.
But that is another really exciting thing about this band is they all seem to like each other. They seem to be having a good time. There doesn't seem to be any like addiction problems in this band. Like I feel like they're gonna keep going for a long time.
Yeah.
And they want to.
Well, they just talked about on Vampire Campfire about how they have like a second band that's just going to be dedicated to live stuff that will come around eventually. So, I mean, who knows what that's even going to sound like? You know, who knows if that's going to be like the jam alternative that they've always talked about? You know, so that's really exciting to think about also.
They talked about it on Vampire Campfire.
Yeah, it was on the first episode. They always set they have like a second band that they want to start together where it's just the three of them jamming basically.
No way.
And they would just do live stuff, kind of like Taper's Choice. They wouldn't do any like recorded music necessarily.
Yeah, there was a New York Times article where they were talking about it and they were like, would they open for Vampire Weekend? And Ezra said it's been discussed. So I was kind of hoping that was going to be a surprise opener.
Yeah, we were hoping for that.
Alas.
Wow, that would have been crazy. I never heard about that. I didn't catch that. That's really exciting.
I listened to Vampire Campfire. I listened to the first episode, but I did miss the side project talk in there, and I also got my news from the Times.
Will there ever be a fourth episode? Who knows? Yeah. I'm already at 9. So.
They gotta step it up. You got 3 weeks off, boys. Yeah. Record some more Vampire Campfire.
Yeah. Did you guys have any disappointments from these shows?
No Big Blue on the set list still. They sound checked how long and they didn't play it. Unbearably White hasn't made it back on the set list yet either. There's just a few Father the Bride songs that kind of stick out to me as like, man, this feels like it would really jive well with a lot of these Only God Was Above Us tracks.
Yeah.
Agree.
I thought the drums kind of fell flat on Mary Boone night 1.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Yeah, I think
it's a weird pattern they play live. It's a really weird pattern they play.
Yeah, it just didn't quite work that time. Although I've heard, I mean, when they played it though for the whatever late night show they were on,
Daily Show. Was that Daily Show?
Daily Show. Yeah.
Oh, the Daily Show. Yeah, sounded great on that.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Because they had Ariel, I believe, doing like the actual.
Oh,
like,
that's
spinning
right.
The sample.
That's right. Yeah, he was there. Okay.
Yeah. No Ariel appearance in Montana.
No.
Big disappointment.
So is it just like CT hitting a little thing on his drum pad and then that triggers the sample that then gets played for the drums? I think. I wonder how that. works.
He does have one of those. I don't know if that's how they do it.
I know
for
he does,
that. Yeah.
Well, they're not doing samples for the live
Yeah.
drums. Like
No, it
they're
was a
just like
sample.
it's like a double. It's like double hit on the low tom, double hit mid tom, like pattern kind of thing. It's a weird pattern live though. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the drum machine they used on the album. I think that's kind of the big thing.
Yeah, that was it. It just kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. I was expecting that sample to come in hot, and just was something a little different. But it was redeemed though by the daytime Mary Boone the next day, which was so fucking cool.
So Jacob, I know you're going to more shows this year. Skyler, has this lit a fire in you to see Vampire Weekend again?
Well, I'm not going to travel for it. I can't. I'm really not in a position, and I'm really just sort of where I'm at in life right now. I'm not traveling for music. I did a lot of that last couple years, like for Fish. Just I followed them on a tour in 21, and then 22 I flew to see them a bunch, and I just in a little bit of a different place, so can't really travel for live music this year, unfortunately, unless we'll see what happens with this edit that this video that I shot for them. If there becomes like a work opportunity or any sort of excuse financially to get out to a show, I'd be interested for sure. So maybe an opportunity like that.
If we band together, we could get you to Madison Square Garden, I'm sure.
You think?
Absolutely.
That'd be sweet. I just got the footage back yesterday for this, and I'm very pleased with it. It turned out really good.
Hell yeah.
So
Cannot wait. Jacob, what shows are you going to?
I'm going to Red Rocks and Dillon Amphitheater on the 19th and 20th this month. I'll be in Chicago the 26th and 27th, hoping to make Minneapolis happen. I think the 30th and the 31st. And then I will be at Washington, D.C. and MSG as well. And hopefully Nashville.
Dude.
Oh, yeah. See you in Nashville. See you in Chicago.
I will see you in Red Rocks, Dillon, Minneapolis, and Nashville.
Red Rocks is probably the show I'm most excited for on this tour outside of MSG.
Yeah, crazy. That's gonna be
last tour, it was probably my favorite shows on their tour last time. So I can't wait for it this time.
Well, Madison Square Garden is hard to beat, but they were the other two.
Yeah, I mean, but they didn't play Mountain Brews at Madison Square Garden.
That's a good point.
Yeah, or Diplomats Jessica.
I got to see that jam, I think, like 4 times on the last tour. It was
Lucky.
so solid. Yeah, I got to see every version of Diplomats on. It was awesome.
We also got Taxi Cab at Red Rocks.
Oh yeah, Taxi. One of the only 2 performances ever. Incredible. Yeah. Bayo on the stand-up.
Damn, just make me more jealous, dude.
Well, he didn't remember the words to Spring Snow, so.
That's okay. Who does?
I do.
I don't have anything more to say.
I guess kind of my final thing. Just again, in relation to your other favorite jam adjacent bands, experimental improvisational rock bands, what do you think are some potential like pitfalls that Vampire needs to kind of avoid as far as like just kind of anything in those scenes or with the bands, because like we've talked about, they're not for everybody. And there are some things that like really turn a lot of people off and are kind of like net negatives for a band. Do y'all have anything to say about that?
I mean, I will say I think some of the fans that those bands can attract sometimes, especially the people who hang out in the pit, in comparison to the fans that Vampire Weekend kind of currently sees operate the pit, could be a major turn off, because I mean there have been debates on Reddit since the pandemic basically over how much space you're allotted in a GA zone at a Fish or Dead and Company show or a Goose show or a Billy show, and it's a heated thing among those people. And I think based on my experience at these shows, everyone is so cool about just like kind of packing in like sardines and being close to each other and just kind of dancing like that I think the introduction of a giant swath of people who bring tarps and like 10 feet of space to dance, it would be kind of pretty bad for crowd vibes, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about that. I'd like to have a little discussion on the Tarper situation. Yeah, I when I go to shows, fish shows, I've been more often than not immersed in that group that you talk about here. These pit people up in fish. I'm usually up close. It's just how I like to see a show. For me, being up close, I'm sure it's the same for you guys. Being up front is a whole different experience. It's so much more immersive, and you can have just such a bigger thing to be up close. So that's like always been my priority with fish shows. But what comes with that is having to integrate into that environment, that social weird thing that's going on with the fish pit. It's really more fish than Dead & Co, I think. I don't know that it's the same as
the tarping got really bad last summer with Dead & Company. I would say, like, if you weren't a VIP, you would walk into the pit as just kind of a standard customer, and there would just be like the entire first 50 to 100 feet would just be tarps, basically. And I mean, the one fish show I went to also, I was in the pit. I tried to get really close, and then like, this was kind of one of my first. This is one I did do early entry as well, the early entry lottery thing that they do, which I have so many opinions on that as well. But I show up and
it's like a half-hour conversation about this.
Yeah. But I show up and you see all these people with tarps and blankets and stuff, and like they've established a lot of space for themselves in what is normally a very tight space compared to what indie rock fans walk into at a show.
There are a lot of groups that are taking way too much space, and that's absurd. But it's just a different way to do a show, and it is interesting. I think it's interesting that it exists, that there is this scene around this band where here we do shows differently. Like at this band, there is a sort of like a it's like there's
a social agreement almost that you make with everyone silently,
mutual contract happening, that there's this process that everybody respects, or everybody's supposed to respect in theory, where everybody who wants to be up front has the mechanism, has a way to do that. It's just there's effort that's involved. And there's a lottery system now to do that, so you don't always. But there's so many people cheating that system, and it is really gross. Like, it's so gross. Like some of the behavior that happens with those people up front.
And so many people are cheating that system also, so they can get into the venue early and buy posters to resell and scalp to people who don't have pit tickets, or to people who just don't get into the venue early enough, which is like a whole nother thing that I think Vampire Weekend should try to avoid, which is the whole like false merch scarcity thing that jam bands try to do, and putting a limited edition sticker on everything when this stuff really is not that limited. It's all produced in a foreign country for very cheap, and we buy it at a massively upmarked price. And I don't think that a lot of the time we should be treating shirts that are marked of 500 like they're worth like $2,000 on the resale market, because somebody told us there's only 5. It happens a lot with a lot of bands, I would say. I mean, especially in the poster scene, I would say, when bands they'll intentionally print they'll intentionally print 150 200 posters, or they'll print a very small amount of it to get people into the venue early to try and buy it, and then when they miss out, they're just on eBay for $500. And I think that's a culture that Vampire Weekend should try to avoid, is false scarcity of merch, basically.
I do love my one of like 125, I think. I have the Music Midtown exclusive t-shirt, but that was also,
I want one of those so badly.
That was also
it's the
not
only shirt I'm missing.
Made, like, that was made by a dude in Atlanta, and he made 125 of them. So like, that's cool, and I love that thing. But so what I'm hearing is really just making sure that the fans kind of uphold the like for to use a very beaten to death term, like kind vibes that the band has fostered, kind of since the beginning, from what I understand, but definitely since the FOTB tour, of just be nice to each other.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for every band to try to keep right now, especially as we see so many like just toxic TikTok videos online and stuff of, how people act at shows nowadays, just keeping good vibes at a show and being good and kind to each other and respecting each other and each other's space is like the best thing you can do at any show, honestly.
totally.
Hell yeah.
Couldn't agree.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you both so much for joining. It was
Thanks for having me.
It was wonderful to meet you both in Bonner, and I look forward to seeing you both again in the future.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see you guys again.
Likewise. It was so cool to meet you guys. It's really cool. So exciting to see the spirit that I love so much about, like the music that I'm a little bit more engaged with, kind of happening in this space over here too. It's like very heartening. So you guys
Likewise.
rule, and I love all your work so much. All the
Thank you,
bootleg
man.
stuff.
Thank you so much.
So cool.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Bonner boys.
Bonner boys.